Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Last class we were talking about the second reading, and we went over what analyzing certain symbols meant. We discussed this on the meeting we had. We're gonna move on to the third read, analyzing how structure contributes to meaning. Now in the poem Inside Out and Back Again, we have a glimpse into the mind of the author. You see, what she is trying to show us is, while using these tools, is to give us an image, her perspective of what went on in her life while she was moving to Alabama. Things that you need to remember. Poets they have a very particular set of skills. A particular set of tools. They use simile, metaphors. They use meter. They use alliteration. They use onomatopoeia, assonance, hyperbole, and allusion. Now, these words may sound a little off, but I want you to consider that even though that Lai doesn't use metric or she doesn't use rhyme, she still uses the other tools to create this free verse prose poem. To give you an example, when she uses the gone sound, which is supposed to be used as a very long, very powerful sound that starts losing its power and its volume as it goes on, and therefore she uses a particular way of writing it, where she starts with capital letters and then they slowly drift away. That sound is supposed to be read in a way, and she tells you how to read it by the way she writes it. We have a truck went by. Now, we're going to be working on pages 22 to 24 to 23, I'm sorry. There you're going to be answering, following the instructions, which I'm going to read in a minute, and answer the questions that we have. I want you to consider certain ideas when you're working with this. I want you to reread the poem, because it's not only about reading it and reading it again, it's about finding new details, new elements that will help you expand your knowledge of English. Poetry is such a vast and such a diverse genre of literature that we can do so much with it, Now, let's start with reading what we have to do. As you read the text again, think about how the structure contributes to the meaning and style of the poem. Consider why the author chose this format for an entire novel. Now I want to talk about Lai's reasoning behind using this mode of writing. You see, she explains in a blurb. It begins with, "Here is how Lai explains her reasons for writing the prose poem in this novel. For years and years and years, I could never get the voice right. Finally, one day, I'm standing on a playground at 110th in Central Park, and suddenly all these images started coming back to me. It will be sharp, quick images, like red and yellow hot dogs, and I realized, I'm back inside the mind of that little girl who's standing on a playground in Montgomery, Alabama, when I first entered this country. And I thought, that's my voice. And I didn't know it was called prose poems, and I had no idea tons of writers have been writing like this for years. This just tells you where my brain is. I thought that's how I'm going to convey that she's thinking in Vietnamese." Take that into consideration. Her writing style is predisposed as someone who's thinking of how to write in how a person thinks in Vietnamese. I want to give you an example of how that is truly conveyed when I'm going to quote a little bit of the text. So you have sort of like an emotional understanding of what's going on. I think that I'm going to use the one of my favorite parts. Wet and Crying on page 12. It's when she's referring to the papaya. She begins with complete ideas, right? Like, my biggest papaya is light and yellow, still flecked with green. Brother Wu wants to cut it down, saying it's better than letting the communists have it. Mother says yellow papaya tastes lovely, dipped in chili salt. It's in chili salt. Your children should eat fresh fruit while you can. Brother Wu chops, the head falls, a silver blade slices. Black seeds spill like clusters of ice, wet and dry. There's a detail afterwards. It says when the North Vietnamese invade, Ha and her family escape by boat to America and eventually settle in Alabama, where a man, whom Ha calls Cowboy, helps the family settle into a new home and new school. Now, I want to take... There's a reason this section is called Wet and Cry. And the whole cadence, the way it's supposed to be read, when she says, my biggest papaya, pause. There's a line, there's a break there. In poetry, breaking means that a person breathes, or maybe it means that a person is trying to give pause, to emphasize something. But the way she starts, my biggest papaya is light and yellow, still flecked with green. There's a pause. There's a rhythm that's forming. Yet she's not looking to create a metric. She's not looking to have a tempo connected to something such as like music or regular poetry, because she's not using rhyme. She's not using meter, but she's still using that cadence, that rhythm, right? One of the examples you are given is the tools a poet can use. Next page. It's in relation to the type of rhythm that she's using, right? Now, let's continue. It says focus on analyzing how structure contributes to meaning. Poets choose a structure that fits their style and theme. They choose the number of lines and stanzas. They choose whether they want the poem to rhyme and the kind of meter and rhythm it will have. Read the chart below to learn about different types of verses. It says focus on structure. Types of verses. We have rhyme verse, we have blank verse, and we have free verse. Characteristics, you see, rhyme verse often it says that often final words of lines rhyme, and the poem typically has a consistent meter and rhyming. That's when you have things like when you have I'm thinking of an example of a poem, and I cannot think of one. Well, for example, one of my favorite poems is, "White man came across the sea, he brought us pain and misery." You see, that is rhyming. That at the last word of the stanza of the line rhymes with, depending on the structure, with another line that is followed. The blank verse is the poem has a meter rhythm, but no rhyming lines. Think of it as a little bit like in hip hop, like para pa 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 pa. They're going like, but they're not. It's more about the cadence of it rather than the words rhyming in the end. Free verse, the poem has no set pattern of meter or rhyme. It kind of sounds like they're talking, but what changes is the other tools. You use a lot more alliteration, you use a lot more symbolism, you use a lot more assonance and hyperbole. Let me give you an example of each one. For rhyme verse, it says, "I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. My shadow, by Robert Louis Stevenson. I'll repeat it. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. My Shadow by Robert Louis Stevenson. For blank verse, we have the example, but soft, what light through yonder windows break? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. I'm going to do that again. But soft, what light through the yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. On free verse, we have the love song by J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. It says, and indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window's panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. I'll read it again. And indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. The love song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. Now, these examples are giving us sort of a structural idea of what is it that we have to do. We're going to answer the questions. I will be uploading the pictures of them, and I will be adding them to the lesson. Answer those questions. That's going to be the work for this week. On Wednesday, we will meet and we'll talk a little bit more about it, okay? Glad to see you guys again. See you in the next time. Bye-bye.